Good evening and welcome to SPORLITIKS, where sports and politics mix and mingle. My name is Stacey Johnson. Joining me tonight is Aguna, the Nigerian moderate Republican, Keith, the constitutional conservative, Nas, who was nice enough to join us this evening,
Yes, ma'am.
Stephen, the independent thinker who's off tonight, and my cousin Todd. We've got a packed show for you, but we'll be brief. Republican anger grows at a few members of the GOP as they hold out and don't vote for this upcoming bill. Michigan State begins the process of firing Coach Mel Tucker. Attorney General Garland testifies before the GOP-led House Judiciary Committee. And the Phillies and the Braves, they're playing right now, and the Phillies are winning, Nas. Ha, 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 ha. Wall Street thinks about the key Fed interest rate decision and will say why or what that means to the everyday person like myself. How did your NFL team do this week? Eagles are right on time in stride. Zelensky urges Trump to share Ukraine peace plan, but says he won't give the territory to Russia. And Coach Prime, he does it again against Colorado State. That and more. First up with Nas talking about, what do you want to talk about first? Michigan State, Philly Braves, NFL, or Coach Prime?
Well, I guess the Mel Tucker thing. So Michigan State has got to be number one. Like this is a really interesting story, just from how ridiculous it got, but also just from the standpoint of the world is changing and people are less accepting of some of this ridiculous behavior that we used to ignore. So for those that don't know, Mel Tucker was the former coach of Michigan State for football. The problem with Mel Tucker was he had this miraculous season based on a running back who is now in the NFL, which made it appear as if Mel was a much better coach than what he actually is. As the team started to play and things started to go awry, there were a lot of people calling for his job. Well, guess what? Old Mel helped him out and got himself fired from his job, losing a contract over $80 million. Now we get into the sexual harassment part. So, Stacey, if you want to frame the topic a little better than I just did, and we can get into it, because I don't know if everybody's aware of this story. No? Okay.
So, I'm sorry, I was on mute. I'm sorry, I try to be on mute when I'm not talking so I don't interrupt you. I'm trying to do what I'm trying to tell Keith and Stephen to do all the time. So anyway, Mel Tucker, he was an American, a great story of American success. Mel Tucker started out playing football. He didn't make it quite to pros. I think he did some other teams that were like, almost to pro, but not pro. And then he ended up selling meat out of the trunk of his car. And then he started, after that, I guess he said, that's not a great, I can't do this forever selling meat out of the trunk of my car. So he started coaching football with different college football teams. Nick Saban was one. I think he was, where else was he? In Florida. He was in a few places throughout the country, bouncing around and building his repertoire up, as well as becoming a better coach. So finally, he gets to Michigan, and he gets, guess, $80 million. Who gets $80 million to coach college football? I mean, that's like on the ranks of a Alabama Nick Saban type of deal. I mean, I don't even think Florida doesn't get that. Does the brother from, who's the no, it's the brother, the two brothers. One is the NFL coach in Baltimore, and the other one is the NFL coach.
The Harbaughs.
I gotta find her. The Harbaughs. I don't think they get that much.
So in other words, you're saying only white boys make that kind of money, right?
No, that's what you said. I didn't say that. You said that. But for him to make that is an American success story. And then they have, Michigan State decides to have a woman come and talk about sexual harassment and basically coach the students, athletes, how to recognize it and not perpetrate sexual harassment. So she talks to the coach, which is, as you see on the screen, Mel Tucker. Let me see if I can get this out. It talks to Mel Tucker, and for some reason, she talks to him on the phone, and she alleges that he starts masturbating on the phone while she's talking to him. Crazy.
Through FaceTime or what? Finish the story and make it plain.
Phone, just on a regular phone, Todd.
Okay, well then that can't be
What's
proven then,
ironic,
right?
it's alleged. I said she allegedly said he did this. And for him to do that when she's there to teach about sexual harassment is just crazy.
Okay,
So what did you want to
a
say
little
about
more
that, Nas?
clarification.
Okay.
Nas, what?
Yeah. So a little more
Nas,
clarification.
I just told you the man's whole story.
Wait, this masturbation thing was her imagination. If she didn't see it, she
Let
just
me pull this
imagined
up.
it.
Yeah. So okay. So this is how we get to from 0 to 60 on that part, because
Mm-hmm.
that part is a little jarring. So
Mm-hmm.
supposedly they had friendly text messages and conversations on the phone and kind of developed a friendship. Mind you, the reason why this was necessary is, if you remember Dr. Larry Nassar and all of the problems that Michigan State had with sexual assault, sexual harassment, and everything else. This was the university's way of trying to, preempt anything like that ever happening again.
Okay.
So that's why they had this relationship. So them becoming close friends, so to say. Meanwhile, Mel Tucker is married, supposedly in the process of getting a divorce. And these phone conversations, according to Tucker, started to get a little more personal, and they started developing some type of kinship between each other, while she denies that part and says, she was just having conversations with him because she felt like it was part of the job. And if she refused the conversations, then she might not be invited back to campus to lead those discussions.
Okay. Nas, now look at the screen right there. It says that Tracy's known for her work with college teams educating athletes about sexual violence. Michigan State paid her $10,000 to share her story with the football team. She became friends with Tucker over her advocacy work, but that relationship took a turn in April 22 when Tucker masturbated during a phone call with her, according to her. And this is according to AP News. Go ahead, Nas. Sorry. I just want to add that in for legitimacy.
Right. So I think Todd was just asking, like, okay, how does it get from there to there? So
Yeah,
I was just
because he didn't believe me. Like, I didn't say the same thing. I just said the same thing you said.
Yeah. So I'm just describing how the relationship, kind of progressed, or he's saying the relationship progressed. She's not saying that. So Michigan State gets this thrown in their lap, and they're having a bad season. They were regretting giving Mel Tucker this long, lucrative contract, and this lands in their lap, a way for them to fire him with cause, so they don't have to pay back the money, and we'll just have to see where Mel Tucker goes from here. And that is the ridiculous story. So yeah, Todd and Keith, we definitely want to hear your thoughts.
Go ahead. You go first,
okay.
Keith.
So now, before you go first, let me show you the screen. The rest of this AP article, I made a mistake. It wasn't $80 million. It was $95 million.
Whoa!
Over 10 freaking years.
Whoa!
You see that?
Dang,
that's a lot of money.
Not bad, Todd.
I mean, that is a great American success story. Great American success story. $95 million. He coached with Nick Saban. He coached with other coaches throughout the United States. College football, always in the defensive realm. He was a defensive.
And so he got that for 10 years, right?
You don't know what defensive and offensive is, do you, Todd?
Yes, I do.
You don't have a clue.
Yes, I do.
What's defensive, Cousin Todd?
Defensive is how you and Keith describe black men making money. Now, mind you, that's offensive, but I'm just saying it's defensive because you're always defending the white man against blacks.
Well, that's interesting. I don't know what Todd thinks about that success story, but 95, woo. Okay.
95. We don't supposed to have that. Only white men, right?
Well, according to you, you're
Well,
the one that
sure.
believes that,
Right.
not me, and not Stacy, and I don't think Nas
I
believes
think it's
that.
a great I think it's a great American
Yeah.
story,
And now, to be clear, he
a
got that for
success story.
10 years, right? That 95. He
Can you
didn't get it
read?
in 1 year. That was
He
for
Can you
10 years
read?
of work. That
right.
Can
means he only got 10 million, less than 10 million a year.
Man.
Okay, that's okay. If somebody got just 1 million a year, I think that they would be okay. So you're going to say less than 10 million, like that's nothing. That's a
Well,
lot of
So,
money. The
yeah,
question
it
is,
is.
does Deion Sanders even get that much money per year?
Well, he will when he decides to
See,
redo his
Deion
contract.
Sanders, it seems as though Mel isn't as famous because you didn't know about him, but you knew about Deion Sanders, and he makes more than Deion Sanders.
And for context on the story, because Stacy brought up Nick Saban earlier, understand Nick Saban was the head coach in Michigan State. And the reason we know him for LSU and Alabama is because Michigan State
Because
couldn't afford to pay the lucrative salary Nick Saban had kind of earned by winning there. So they lost him. And that led to this, years later, where they got Mel Tucker as the hottest coach at the time, where other schools were calling and making offers. And that's why they went so far with, guaranteeing so much money to him with this deal. But he'll never see it because, again, he was fired based on this story about sexual harassment. So what are you guys' thoughts on not only him risking this lucrative contract that now he will never see, and then the other part of if you're going to sexually harass somebody? I would think an expert in sexual harassment would be the last person that you choose.
Yeah, really. I have to agree with you now, sir. I'm sorry that you probably don't like me agreeing with you, but on that one, I'm just wondering if she's a professional. I don't know if she calls herself a sex therapist or what, because I don't know what the term is nowadays. But if she's that, I mean, what kind of a voice does she have that would cause him to do that on the phone without her knowledge or without her coaxing him into doing that, or sweet whispering sweet
I
nothings?
got it. So you're
I
saying what
mean,
she did was coax him into that.
I didn't say. I said what kind of situation or what kind of professional is she that he hears her voice and he starts doing that on the
Yes,
phone.
that's strange, right? You
Yeah, it
can't quite
is.
believe her story.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It is kind of hard to believe.
yeah, it
And
is.
just so happens
I,
she's a sex there or a sex counsel or
right. If
correct.
she,
Sexual assault victim survivor.
right.
That's
Okay.
why she's allowed to, do these workshops and break
That's
it down.
right.
Yeah.
Now,
So
he
let me
said a
ask
sex
you a
therapist,
question.
a sex counselor. He called
I
her
don't know.
everything but what she is.
Right.
Okay.
Is
All
she,
right. So, but I don't know why she would. All I'm saying is, all I'm
But
asking
why are
is,
you blaming it on her automatically?
no,
because
Like
I
you
she's
can't
didn't bring
blame
it
probably
what
up.
she's
black.
saying.
All I'm asking, the only question I'm asking, here it is again. I'll try to be clear. The only question
Uh-huh.
I'm asking is, what kind of a voice would cause him to just randomly do that,
Right.
based on hearing her voice
I
on a
got it. I
phone
got.
call?
Do you know
Okay.
whether or not she was black or white,
I don't know.
Keith?
I don't
You
know.
don't know? No idea.
No, I don't know.
Well,
Was she? What was?
the way you challenged her, I would assume she was black.
Is she Stacy?
Well, let me
It,
pull up a
No,
picture
well,
of
that's
her. I
based
think you
on
can
the
find a
way
picture of her.
you challenged her story. You don't challenge white girl stories like that. Only if they look
I
like your
challenge every
mother.
story that
No,
seems a little
ma'am.
odd.
No, no,
I
no,
cha-
no, no.
yeah, it seems odd to me. That's all.
She is
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
a rape survivor
Mm-hmm.
okay.
and an activist. I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Oh, brother, activists on the left, probably. What is
Uh-oh.
the
What are you saying, Keith?
Well,
what
how
is
about we
the
take our
picture?
politics out of this and just discuss the story? Like, I
Okay,
don't think
so let's see the
party
picture,
affiliation.
Stacey.
Okay, so let me pull up the picture. Can you see it? Let me add it
He's
to the okay, there she is. Wrong,
Oh,
Todd. Todd, you're wrong.
ah, ha, ha.
no, no, no. He's going to retract everything he said now.
No, I'm not.
Oh, sure.
I still say what I said.
Okay.
I said what I said. That's it.
Um,
I mean, I
I
just asked a question.
I would have to be convinced that he did that because she could not see him, and the punishment has to fit the crime. That's an awful lot for him to sacrifice his career
Yeah,
over something that she thinks happened over the phone.
man.
Um, no, I need more evidence than
Yeah,
just her word.
I have to
Well,
agree
she
with
she
Todd.
took it to the board of regents, and
Hmm.
they're the ones who made the decision at the school. But ultimately, Mel has pretty good lawyers as well. So
Mm.
I mean, if there's no standing here, it'd be really difficult to fire him and get off all of that money uh, without there being some sort of evidence here that kind of compelled them to believe her. So that's the only place you run into some trouble with this is, of course, it was to their benefit to get off this contract, which they assuredly
Hmm.
did not want to pay anymore.
Of course.
But the other part is Mel didn't hire a lawyer from the side of the bus.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Um,
All right. Well,
okay,
all right.
well,
I want to
I
move
do
on
not
because I'm
believe her
bored.
story. I do not believe her story. And I, I don't want to sound like
You
um,
do.
you
Bye.
know how
On to the next thing. You do.
white men sound like they've been victimized by the world, and but the coach getting fired for kissing
Watch yourself.
what?
Watch yourself.
The coach
You're on
getting
the edge.
fired for kissing that girl in the mouth,
It
and
wasn't the coach. He was the head of the soccer association.
okay,
But
well,
go ahead.
him getting fired for that, I thought that was a bit extreme, and now this, it's all getting to be a little too much for my
Oh yeah.
da-
I
my
have to agree
Go
liking.
with
ahead.
Todd. I agree with you, Todd.
All right, I retract everything I just said.
I do.
All
that's
right.
a healthy
Since
position.
we are since we are talking Nas, I want to go on since we're talking about NCAA football. Let me share my screen. The SEC, this just came up. So the SEC suspends Florida's George Mazkua Xanders along with Tennessee's Norman Lott for the fight. Did you want to talk about that?
I mean, yeah, fights happen. The NCAA does have a punitive arm when it comes to suspensions and things like that. It's just they can't find anybody or really sanction anybody. But this is a dying institution holding on to their last ember of relevance until we get like super conferences, and the NCAA doesn't matter. So they come in and adjudicate on things like this. So yeah, we got to fight. NCAA has to come in and tell you how violence will not be accepted in this game where people can almost lose limb, life, and everything else on a football field based on a game of violence. So, non-story to me.
Well, they already have
All right.
violence.
Let me move on to Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. I watched that entire game, and it was an incredible game. Nas, do you want to talk about it? And I'll share the screen.
Yeah, we can get into that, but I think I'll go last on this. I want to hear from Keith and Todd on this because I think the Deion
And
Sanders.
Todd,
Well, hold on. The Deion Sanders phenomenon goes past football fans. The TV ratings that they're getting means they're getting a little more than normal people who just every Saturday tune into college football. There are people who are watching this who don't care about college football,
Exactly,
and they're into this for the
exactly.
prime angle. So I want to hear what Todd and Keith have to say. Let's hear
That's
them
right.
out.
okay,
And
so
how
but
dare
wait a
you
minute.
talk about Todd? What about Keith? What about
Let me
Keith?
just let me put it this way.
Yes.
Asking for Todd and Keith to discuss anything about football, whether it be college or
Yes.
professional, is
Yes.
like asking a gorilla
Yeah.
to operate
Well,
on
Todd,
a
we're
human.
monkeys.
What? I'm no
We're-
monkey. How dare you compare me to a monkey? What?
Okay, well, let's take it here then. So Todd and Keith,
Yeah.
Were you aware of Deion Sanders being hired? Since you
Yes.
don't really watch college football, were you aware of him being hired?
Yeah.
And were you aware that they were winning? And that
Yeah,
this
it
was
was
the
all over
biggest
the
story?
news.
Okay, and,
Yeah.
and my question is this. How were you aware of those two things that Nas just asked you?
Yes.
It was all over the news for me. I mean, I watched Fox, and it was all on Fox News, and it was on the
There you
regular
go,
news
Todd.
as well. So there you go.
How were you
I-
aware, Cousin Todd?
I watch Fox News too. So, and the dark
Whoa.
web, between those two places.
Whoa, Todd, you revealed something about yourself.
Okay, so
No,
go ahead, Todd.
it was all over the
What did you
news,
think
and
about Deion?
I thought that was wonderful for Deion to win, and like Deion has said himself, he's going to bring more attention to football. And like Nas was saying, people who aren't even interested in college football, like Keith,
Yeah.
now Keith will get interested, which means everybody makes money.
Wow, not bad.
All right, Keith.
Well, I'm not going to
Yeah.
watch. It's not going to make me more interested, but I will see. You know, as it comes on, it shows up on the news. I watch the news, so I watch it there. I mean, I'm not going to I'm not going to watch a game, waste my time with that.
You wouldn't, even though you know
yeah.
he's playing like in the. You wouldn't watch a Deion Sanders coached football game.
No,
Okay.
no. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll settle for whatever he does, and if he's successful at it, which I believe he will be, I'll settle for that. That's fine, but it doesn't make any
One more
impression on my
question.
life.
If Deion Sanders were white, then would you watch him?
Nope.
I'll
plenty of
ask
whites out there.
questions about football, Cousin Todd, not you.
Well, let me give you
I'll
an
ask the
example.
questions about football.
Let me give you an example, Stacy. You know the guy that just retired not too long. What was his name? Gosh, see, here I go.
Brady.
Yeah, Brady. Okay, so they were talking about Brady and then Kaepernick coming to the quarterbacking for that loser team. And
The Jets.
Yeah, the Jets.
New Jersey or New York Jets. It's new.
Yeah.
They
And
say
I
New York
said-
Jets, but they play really in Jersey, and the Northern Jersey
Yeah.
state really believes they belong to them.
Okay, so I just figured, well, okay, that's up to him. He ought to stay in retirement. I wouldn't. I mean, the guy's eventually his body's not going to be able to take it. But if that's what he thinks he can do,
Yeah.
Nas.
So okay. So
Nas.
so the,
Let me say this. You wasted my time with
Oh.
and Todd on
Oh,
football.
boy.
Really?
No, I don't think time was wasted. It's good to hear from people who aren't
Absolutely.
interested in the sport
Right.
or interested in these games at all. And the
Mhm.
fact that it spilled over to them and they knew about it, I think, is an important factor.
That's
And
right.
here's why. I'm gonna tell you why. Growing up, college football was a star-driven thing by the coaches. So the Bobby Bowdens of the world, the Lou Holtzes of the world, these were the people who were presented on television. They showed personality, the ability to recruit. Like, that was a big driver of college football. But over the past 30 years, college football has gotten a lot more corporate, a lot more buttoned up. They don't want these, sound bites to go viral and everything else from the coaches. So because of that void, Deion steps in as a ready-made superstar who, again, this man played the World Series and the Super Bowl. This man was a big-time athlete. Not quite Michael Jordan, but really close on the list when it comes to the 90s. So he takes his star power to Colorado, and all of a sudden, a 1-11 team last year who had no national profile, no primetime games, is now drawing the biggest ratings in the sport comparable to NFL TV ratings. So the star aspect of this Deion Sanders story, that's the most interesting part to me. Just seeing him resurrect this program, who we haven't talked about since the 90s. All of a sudden, they're on TV everywhere, to the point where people who don't watch football even are aware.
good analogy, sir. Analysis.
Right.
Very good.
Well, the game was good. The game started out very physical. They had talked a bunch of smack beforehand. Both coaches, they said that was great. There were two African-American coaches, Colorado State coach and Deion, Colorado coach. It's a long-known rivalry between those teams, and they came out really ready to fight, so much so that the star player with Deion's son, Shador, not Deion's son Shador or Shiloh, but another star player on the team, was hurt and taken out of the game. What were you going to say,
Wow.
Nas?
Oh yeah. Travis Hunter, the wide receiver
Travis
slash
Hunter.
cornerback, future NFL player, was hurt badly in this game on a dirty hit, which caused a lot of ruckus. And Travis is going to be out for the next couple of weeks, so that's going to be a problem for Colorado. But again, Colorado State, normally not a big game, but this one was. Norvell and Dion primed everybody with a little back and forth, old school insulting of each other. And we get this game where Colorado State was an underdog by 21 points, and they end up winning the majority of the game until Dion's son, the quarterback, who was trained by Tom Brady in the offseason, led a 98-yard drive in order for Colorado to win at the end. So, it was a great weekend for them. But Colorado State, the previous week, had been beaten by 40 points by Washington State. So that lets you know this is not really a good team. And Dion is probably in trouble this weekend because they play Oregon, who is actually a good team.
Whoa.
Well, that'll
I've got
bring
it on the screen.
that'll bring eyes to the TV because people are going to want to watch that to see if Dion could back up what he did the first time.
Correct.
I will say this, Stacey, that if they're going to be bringing these kind of if they're going to be bringing big sponsors, they ought to be able to get a piece of the pie. I'm talking about the players, just like Todd said one time. I agree with Todd. The players ought to be able to get some type of compensation for.
Well, they are. They do have. Before I do
gosh.
that, they do have Shiloh. His son has the NIL. Remember, we talked about that the other week about the female basketball player who had sponsors with major companies. Well, Shiloh Sanders, Dion's son, who was the quarterback for Colorado, has so much sponsorship till he was riding in a Rolls Royce, and Tom Brady told him, slow it down, get out the Rolls Royce, and be humble.
Okay. Now let me say this. Now, when I said that the children should get paid, Keith was completely against that. Just to be clear,
No.
you were so. You said, "Why do you keep calling them children? They got a scholarship." You did. So anybody who wants to go back 10 years and listen to our podcast, you will see Keith was totally against it, and so was Aguna. And the only one who was on the fence, who I converted, was Steven. So Keith, forget it. Just forget it. Just forget it.
So looking at this schedule, as you can see, they play. Who do they play here?
USC.
Oregon and then USC.
Oh, Oregon, Saturday, September 23 at 3:30, and then USC. Those are some really, really good teams, and I think they're going to have a hard time beating them. But we'll see. I think Shedeur Sanders is, and this is a picture. Let me share this tab. This is a picture of Dion with his son Shedeur, who is the quarterback, and he throws a mean ball. I don't know if you remember me telling you, every ball he throws somehow spins multiple times. It's almost like, you ever see the concrete trucks? It's spiral. But you ever see the concrete trucks as they drive them through the street, and the concrete truck, that spiral thing that keeps that concrete moving so it will not harden inside that container? That's how he spins that ball, but faster with every throw. It is truly amazing.
Very good.
Yeah, the kid can spin it, but yeah, they're probably going to lose by a lot of points.
And why will they lose by a lot of points? Why will they lose by a lot of points? If you talk about them and you talk about Oregon, let's talk about the difference between Oregon and Colorado in terms of what they have available in terms of guns.
Yeah, so when Dion came into Colorado, again, last year they were 1-11. Not very many good players. So he had to bring in people through the transfer portal and then players that he recruited from Jackson State, his previous coaching job. And he's going to slowly build that team up. So they're ahead of schedule this year by being undefeated right now. But these other teams they're playing have already gotten their players. They're already loaded up. So they're probably going to lose these next two. But, the old saying goes, if you're going to get Dion, you better get him this year, because next year he's going to get the full complement of players the same way Oregon and USC have, and they're going to be really tough to beat.
And what's interesting is I don't know if any of you watched 60 Minutes. Dion was on 60 Minutes this weekend, and what he told his players when he first arrived at Colorado was, I think you all should transfer.
Yes.
He told them to just transfer out. Get out.
Now, as cold-hearted
Some of
as that sounds, that's the normal process in Power 5 big-time Division I football. When Nick Saban recruits a guy and tells his parents he loves the kid and he wants the kid to play there, and can't think any more of him, and then the next year a better player comes in, there are times where you lose your scholarship or you are kind of coerced into transferring somewhere else because you won't get any playing time. So this is how big time football works. It's just Dion vocalized it. Normally they don't say that in front of the media.
And let me just show you as comparison to salaries between the Michigan State coach who was fired of $95 million, the Michigan State coach. Over 10 years, $95 million. And here's Dion's salary, $5.5 million.
Well, why do you suppose that is? Why do you suppose
For
the guy
the next how many years?
Total worth, it says a total worth before his incentives is $29.5 million. If you look at that, look at my screen.
Can't see it,
So
but okay.
95 million to 29.5.
What do you guys think of that the other coach though, the 95 million? Why is that he got offered so much?
Yeah, two different sets of experience. So Mel Tucker was a longtime assistant for Saban, worked his way up through the ranks, and eventually got the head job. And then when he got the head job, he won so much that other schools were coming in trying to pay him to get him to leave. So Michigan State had to overpay in order to keep him. While Dion, on the other hand, Jackson State gave him his first head coaching opportunity. This was Dion's biggest problem. He didn't have job experience, so he couldn't get the jobs he wanted. So he wanted Jackson State, and then at that point, he had a record to run on, and then he gets the offer from Colorado. And yes, that's a really low offer. I'm sure he's probably got his lawyers working on it to see if they can kind of readjust that contract. Or in 2 years, maybe you might see Dion leave because, yeah, he's worth much more than what he's paid right now.
Well, not only leave because he's worth much more than what he's paid, but he also may leave to get more money because his son Shedeur and his son Shiloh, who plays defensive, will be in the NFL.
Oh.
And Dion said he's not going to coach in the NFL, but who knows?
Yep. So that's the difference between him and Tucker. But the Jackson State angle, I think a lot of people were mad at Dion when he left. But I think what they didn't know were the details of that deal, which were basically this. Dion needed the job, and Jackson State was willing to take the chance on him with the understanding that when the big boys came calling, Dion was going to leave. He was never staying at Jackson State for a long time. So no harm, no foul on that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, on to the NFL since we're talking football. Week 3, how did your teams do? No one has any teams but me and Nas because Aguna and Steven aren't on tonight. So I guess we'll talk about our teams.
Well, you go first. Unless you want me to go first.
Your team.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. My team is the Flyers. And I think if the Flyers keep up what they're doing now, I think we'll take it all the way to the World Series. America first.
All right, Todd.
Right. NFL Week 3, my team, of course, is Aguna's team, of course, which is the only and best team, of course, which is the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, you guys squeaked by Minnesota. I guess you guys are undefeated. Me and the Falcons are 2-0, undefeated, never lost, never been beaten in 2023. One of the great teams you'll ever see. Shout out to the ATL.
All right.
Okay, he said never been beaten in 2023, and the season in 2023 just started.
All I'm saying is every game we played,
they've only played 2 games. Yeah, they only played 2 games.
Never lost.
They never lost. So What are you gonna
Oh,
do?
hilarious. Well, let's talk about this loss that somebody's getting their butt beat right now. And I think that is the Atlanta Braves.
Wow.
Let me share the screen. The Atlanta Braves. Is it sharing? Where's my screen? Okay, there we go. Phillies versus the Braves right now. Let me make it a little smaller. Final.
Yeah.
I'm
Philadelphia Phillies
bored.
6,
Wow.
Atlanta Braves 5.
Yeah, good job,
How you like us
Philadelphia.
now?
Yeah, good job. You beat our sixth best pitcher in a day game in September. Yeah, I guess if you guys want to celebrate that, you do that. We win championships out here at Atlanta Braves. So, best record in the
And
league,
you
best team in the league, MVP of the league, Ronald Acuna. So, yeah, nice day for you
right,
guys.
and you won the championship last year, right? That's when you last won the championship?
No, the year before,
Oh,
it
okay.
happens.
All right,
So
yeah.
did you
Just
guys
like
win the
you.
championship last?
No, but we
Okay.
made it. No, but we made it to the finals.
No, that's nice.
We sure
That's
did.
nice. But you never
We sure
did
did.
win that Stanley Cup, did you?
Yeah, you guys should throw a parade. Second place. Good job.
So, let's
Ah.
go on to the shutdown. Todd,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about how Republicans are kind of angry at other Republicans for not voting the way they think they should vote in order to have a government shutdown.
So that they can shut down the government. This is what the trickery is. Hey, guys, we're going to try to shut the government down because we're extremists and we're bigots. And for the 6 or 7 white boys that are not bigots, we got to find a way to get them on board. This is the Republicans talking to each other when nobody's looking. And so, what's his name? Lindsey Graham. He said, who's going to get blamed for this shutdown? The Republicans, as usual. So, and then I said to Stephen last week, I said, Stephen, who gets hurt if the government shut down? Nobody. Nobody. And that's not true. I
He
said,
didn't say it like that.
I said, Stephen, people will not get their checks. Yes, they will. That's propaganda. And all these kind of crazy things that you get from the dark web. So if the government shuts down, checks will be late. People who are on Social Security, people who are in the military waiting for their checks. That's just the way it goes. Now, and look at this one shaking his head. This is Keith, who knows nothing about how government is run. Nothing. Unless Trump says it, he doesn't believe it. So the bottom line is what the Republicans want to do is shut down the government to shake things up. And for what? They won't get hurt. Only your common people, like I was telling Stephen Stephen last week, people like his father, who was in the military, people who are on Social Security, just people who can't afford to get hurt will get hurt because the Republicans want to do this. I don't even know what you would call this kind of trickery.
So let me read this article and ask Keith. You look at this screen, thehill.com article says Jayapal, Representative Jayapal slams GOP over looming government shutdown. Republicans cannot govern. And this is written by Sarah Fortinsky today at 7:31 p.m. That's Representative Jayapal. And today, she sharply criticized her Republican colleagues for failing to find a path forward to avert a government shutdown before the looming deadline at the end of this month. At this rate, we are headed to a Republican shutdown, she said with an interview with Wolf Blitzer, and that gives me no pleasure to say because a shutdown has terrible consequences for the American people. Keith, do you believe it has terrible consequences for the American people? And why do Republicans continue to buck against the system and not vote for this bill?
Well, not at all. It doesn't have terrible consequences. It does not have terrible consequences to the American people. We're already suffering under the fact that the Biden policies and the way the government is functioning and spending, we are already suffering. Look at the gas
Wow.
prices. The gas prices are up to $7 an hour, and here in Los Angeles,
$7 an
California,
hour?
yeah, I'm
No,
sorry,
no, the
$7
gas prices are
a gallon.
down all
$7
over
a
the
gallon.
I was
United
about to
States.
say that's the most expensive gas in world history. My
The
God.
$7 a gallon. You know what I meant. But anyway, it's atrocious to think that if the government shut down for a
Gas
length of
prices
time,
go
the whole
up and
country.
down.
Let me finish. You don't have Stephen to yell at, so I'm not gonna talk. I'm not gonna talk over everybody. But it's atrocious. It's really terrible to think that if the government shut down for a certain length of time, the country is going to fall apart. That just says to me that government has its hands in too much of the economy, because the economy should be able to function without government intervening or interfering. And you see in the Constitution that government is so limited, it is doing much more than what the Constitution gives it the authority to do. So that's why we have people thinking that that if government is shut down, the country is going to fall apart. No, the government is functioning now. And the way the government is functioning and spending, people are suffering. That's why we have what we have, with
Okay.
the economy the way it is.
Well,
That's really, and Social Security continues even with the shutdown. Medicare, all of that, Social Security, welfare, all of those things still continue. Those are important. I guess they say they're important. So those are functions that will continue even in a shutdown. It happens every year. We talk about this every single time. And at the last minute, they're coaxed into fearfully voting with the Democrats. So it always goes the Democrats' way with all the spending that they do. It's never the Republicans that should be at fault, except
Okay.
for when they
Donald Trump.
except
Okay.
for when they give in.
Well,
Okay.
hold on, cousin Todd. So first things first, when you have a government shutdown, that means that certain areas will not be as staffed, as equipped, and as lean
Good.
and mean as they normally are. Which
Excellent.
means there will, sir, you just said don't interrupt you. Why are you interrupting? Which means there will be lapses in people seeking not only their benefits, but also their normal paycheck. That will be a problem. The other part, Keith said, well, government supposed to be small, in the Constitution. Well, sir, you cannot compare the economy of a 13-colony backwater who is not really on the world stage, who didn't even have an embassy in most major countries at the time, to the number one economy in the world, in which 55% of that economy is produced by the government. So government spending is not only a necessity, it's actually a huge part of the government and a huge part of our economy. Let's explain this in simple terms. When a teacher goes to the grocery store to spend her paycheck, and someone from a private bank goes to spend their paycheck at a grocery store, the grocery store doesn't separate and say this is from government spending and this is from private spending. No, it all goes into the kitty as revenue for that store. So we got to take our ideological blinders off sometimes when people tell you big government bad, and also understand that the world is a much more complicated place. And the last time they did this, they ruined the United States credit rating and caused a financial calamity in 2010. So again, when one party singles out the other party and hurts regular citizens with the idea that they just want to hurt their political opponent, how patriotic is that? So yeah, this is the most unpatriotic, raggedy, selfish thing any party could do, and it should not only not be tolerated, it shouldn't be. It's not something that people should be cheering for. This is actually a losing cause for the average American citizen. Sorry, cousin
So,
Todd.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
so cousin
okay.
Todd, when we look at, cousin
Mhm.
Todd, let me ask you, when we look at the Speaker of the House, McCarthy, and him proposing a deal that would include some Republicans and not others in order for the measure to pass, what happens to him?
Well, he's going to get thrown out, of course. but because he can't last uh, with these radicals. But Stephen and Keith, they want smaller government sometimes until it comes down to a person's right to choose what to do with their own bodies. Then they want big government. They want big government to tell a woman what she can and can't do with her body. See? That's when we need big government to step in.
Right.
That's right. Because these women, they don't know what they're doing. So let the states control their bodies. And if the state deems it unnecessary for her to have an abortion just because she got raped by her father and she's 10 years old, so be it.
Okay, I don't have all day. We're running out of time. You can't talk all day
Why can't
and
we?
all night
So anyway,
because we're running out
they
of time.
want small government when it suits them, and then big government when it suits suits them. So it's just silly. And
All right.
what's going to happen is they're going to
Go into
lose
the Fed
in
rate. Go
November.
into the Fed rate.
Okay, but they're going to lose in November. And then I was telling somebody this about Donald Trump. The question was, when are they going to get tired of Donald Trump? And I said, not till after November, until he loses again. And this happens like McCarthy, not this nut job McCarthy. There was an old McCarthy back in the 50s. It was the McCarthy era. And they were falling all over him and doing everything until they got rid of him. Same thing with Nixon. They loved him until they didn't. And so then they threw him out. And so they love Trump now until November. Then they're going to get tired of him, which they never liked Trump, really. If you go back to when he was running, they were telling the truth. In 2016, how he was not fit for office. He was horrible. He was dumb. He was everything they said he was. He really was. Then, of course, you had these sap suckers like Ted Cruz licking behind Trump saying, well, maybe he did talk about my wife being ugly, but I still like him. America first. And maybe he did say my father killed JFK, but America first. I mean, come on. He's great in bed. We're buddies. Anyway.
Can you go to the Fed rate, please?
The
And
Fed
how Wall Street closed today after the Fed chair said more hikes are ahead, but no hikes are
right.
coming right now, and what that means to a person like me, average teacher.
That's right. And it's not going to be sky high rates. Let me just say, I think, and this is what they said too. The unemployment numbers are not going to go climbing. They said it's probably going to stay the same or drop. How do you like that? This is for people like Keith and Stephen, who's all gloom and doom because the president doesn't know what he's doing. He's doing just fine. And as far as now I know people don't like this cryptocurrency thing, but I'm just letting you know, cryptocurrency is getting ready to be a bull market. So, matter of fact, Nas, I'm going to tell you a stock to get. I won't tell you on the air, but I'm going to tell you a Bitcoin to snag for cheap. You're on mute, Stacy.
Oh no! Tell everybody.
Ma'am, I believe he was talking to me.
Okay, I'll tell you on the air. And then I'll go into detail in private. This coin is called Jasmy. And right now, Jasmy is 0.000.4. So it's not even 1 penny. You hear me? Not 1 penny. So just call it a penny. If you put $1,000 on it, which I say put 2,500 on it. I know that's kind of steep, but if you put $2,500 on it, when it goes to $1, everything goes to $1. As a matter of fact, things go up to $2, $3, $5 like that. We had another. We had money on I'll just say Cardano, and Cardano went up to $3
Sir,
and
sir,
something.
sir, sir, we can't do this all night. We're
Okay,
running out of time.
so the point I'm making, Keith, you need to stop doing that because you need this money more than any of us. So, so Jasmine, it's not even a penny. So if you put $2,500 on it, when it goes to $1, you will get $200,000 back after taxes. Did you hear me? 200. So, and
Understood.
that if you put $1,000 on, you'll get $800,000 back because it's 20% taxed. And so I say 2,500. That's $200,000 after taxes just when it goes to $1, and it's only a penny right now. So trust me, I'm thinking it's going to take no more than 20 months for us to have a bull run and to get to $1. Now it could go higher
Okay,
than that,
thank
but
you,
I'm
thank
just
you,
banking
thank you.
on a
Can't keep
dollar.
talking. Thank you, can't
All
keep
right, we
talking.
got it.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Oh my
Appreciate it, cousin
gosh.
Todd. So the story about the Fed and hiking interest rates, basically just think about it like this. There's a problem in your kitchen. The plumber comes, he's got a toolbox. He just goes into that toolbox to try to figure out a way to solve the problem. What problem is he trying to solve? Still fighting inflationary issues, as we all know. That's a part of the economy that we have to fix. And the the unemployment rate, which is not high, actually becomes a problem because now we're talking about interest rates and everything else that Wall Street loves to see go in the other direction. So this is simply the Fed saying, okay, we're trying to solve this problem. Give me that wrench. Let's try interest rates again. Let's see if we can get
Mhm.
this thing under control and make Wall Street happy. And Main Street, of course, is secondary when it comes to who they're considering when they're
Mhm.
thinking about these problems. But yeah, Stacey, thank you for bringing this up. I think more Americans should hear about this because the more people learn about that process, the more people have some angry words to say to Wall Street.
And let me say that Wall Street, crypto piggybacks off of Wall Street. So
Mhm.
when Wall Street does well, crypto also does well.
Correct.
And
Sometimes
Todd
when
is saying that so that you all can buy it up and he can get his money early.
what? What are you talking about?
She said a pump and dump scheme, a la Elon Musk from 2 years ago.
And not only
Uh,
him,
you remember
I like
Elon's
cousin Todd.
with Dogecoin? Oh, he
that's
did those
right.
people so wrong, man.
And so did this new Republican running for the presidency.
Yes, Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy.
Yeah,
Yes.
Ramaswamy.
the old Swami.
Yes.
That
Yeah,
old
he did that
Swami.
Unfriended.
though. He did that though with
Uh,
promises of a new drug
yeah,
for
for
Alzheimer's,
Alzheimer's.
and he
Yeah.
brought this. Yeah, he brought this drug that was in the testing stages for $5 million. Got all his friends to invest in it, and then when he knew good and well it wasn't going to work, which he knew when he brought it, it wasn't going to work. He sold it, and got his money.
Mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm.
All
Sad.
right.
Making, I think
Go
$38
ahead.
million off of that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Two more things. We got to start our roundtable. We're out of time. So with the roundtable, we're going to discuss a few things that I want to talk about. First, union worker strike.
Jasmine,
Uh,
let me just clear that Jasmine has
oh my
nothing to do with
gosh.
that. When I'm talking about this cryptocurrency has nothing to do with Swami or none of them other thieves. This is about Jasmine is it's it's a way to
It's
protect your
separate. It has
I
nothing to do with it. It's
right.
separate.
It's a way to protect your identity from identity thieves.
Okay, and it also came from Japan or South Korea.
Hmm.
I think it's South Korean. Anyway, let's start our roundtable. We're going to start with Keith, then Nas, then cousin Todd. I want to cover first breaking news on the Hill. TheHill.com says they were able to get past Tuberville. The Senate gets around Tuberville to confirm Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman. That's a big deal. Todd, you've been talking about this a while. This is an article written by Al Weaver. today, 7:21 p.m. Senate gets around Tuberville to confirm the Joint Chiefs Chairman, and that is who he is. Todd, do you want to talk about it as I continue to move down
Well,
about the story?
yeah, it was fortunately they were able to get around him from holding up progress. And this is a typical how Republicans say they're military first, and they're not, because he held this up for it gets back to women's vaginas, which he's not even interested in, but he's holding up progress so that he can make a point. People like the Republicans like him and Bolbert, who did you all hear what happened with Bolbert? I'll just give you a recap
Oh,
real
we
fast.
saw the video.
Oh, did you? Are you muting me, Stacy? Is that what you're trying to do because you don't want
Yeah, I'm
Republicans'
sorry.
dirty laundry out?
No, not at all. I'm sorry. I
Well,
did
why would you
hit
doing
mute
that?
by mistake.
Oh,
I hit
sure
it by
you did.
mistake.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, just like Trump hit Stormy Daniels by mistake. Anyway, yeah, old Bolbert, she's getting a divorce, I hear. And so she went out on a date with a Democrat. Keith, did you hear that? Old Bolbert went on a date with a Democrat. And so she went to this little matinee play where young people were there in the audience. You know, young people usually hang around matinees and stuff. And so what she decided to do in the matinee was smoke. You see? You're not supposed to smoke indoors. You know that, don't you, Keith? Well, she was smoking indoors. Now, what I'm going to say is this. I'm going to pause that story, and I'm going to say, from now on, I'm going to start smoking inside.
And I'm going to pause your story and say, from now on, you're going to stop because we're out of time and we haven't gotten anybody else.
Okay. I'm going to start smoking inside because you know what? I feel that this is a hoax. I don't think you can really get cancer from smoking. Just like Keith and Stephen don't think you can get the coronavirus from breathing other people's air. So I don't believe it. So I think it's a hoax. And if the medical community says it's true, I don't believe them. They're all quacks, right? So we're going to start smoking inside, just like the Republicans, like Bolbert. So she was smoking inside of a building, and this pregnant woman said to her, "Can you please stop vaping? I can't take all this smoke. I'm pregnant." And so Bolbert kept on smoking. America first. And so then, since she was sitting with a boy and she's boy crazy, oh, there she is. She's boy crazy, but she can't keep a man because her husband dumped her. So now she's out on the market for a new piece. So then this date she had was sitting beside her. So he felt like going down in her chest while children were watching her. He went down into her chest and started playing with her chest. And so she was giggling and stuff. So she went down to his crotch and started playing with his crotch in the middle of the matinee, in the middle of the afternoon. And so she was carrying on so bad, they said, look, she got to get out of here. So they threw her out. She's a Republican, Keith. You know that. And so they threw her out of the play. And so she put up her middle finger to him as she was leaving. So what do you say about a tramp like that? Keith, I'm talking to you.
Stacy, do you want me to answer?
Wouldn't you think, what would you call her? A prostitution whore or something like that?
Nope.
What would you call her?
Is that what Stacy wants me to? Is that she
yes?
Wants me to
That's what we want you to talk about.
I don't want you to call her anything. I don't want you to call her anything. You can make a quick response, very quick.
Oh well, she is definitely a woman who might have been a little bit hot to trot there and out of control. That's the best I can say. How's that?
Hot to trot.
All right, thank you.
What about the children that were seeing her doing this? Now she was
Cousin
complaining.
Todd, you've got to stop, Cousin Todd. We're out of time. You've gone totally over. We're out of time. We can't even get to the other areas that we
Okay,
need to
well,
get
I
to,
wanted.
like the United Auto Workers strike, when
I
people
think
are
that's a good
making
thing.
$20 an hour
Yeah,
and the CEO is making $30 million a year.
yeah,
You want to comment on that?
yeah. I think it's a good thing. I think they should strike their heads off. And Nas didn't have a chance to comment on Bolbert. Uh,
Well, I'll give him a chance. You
oh,
just go
good.
ahead
So,
so I can
yeah.
get rid of you.
N-
I just want to get rid of you. Bye.
These people striking, that's good for them. And I'm also supporting the writer's strike. Um, I think it's time that everybody starts getting paid from the bottom up, which is a
Okay, thank you.
democratic.
Thank
This is
you.
what
Thank you.
Joe Biden
We're done
wants.
with you.
Top
Thank you. Bye
down is
bye.
no good. Bottom up is where it's at.
All right, thank you. Bye,
Can
Nas.
I
Oh
make
no,
it?
Keith, let me
Can I
get
make
Keith
a
and then
comment?
Nas.
Yeah, can I make
Go
a
ahead, Keith.
comment about the unions? This is why. Here's a perfect example of why I hate unions. Um, we
You
gave those
hate them?
examples of two black men. Well, Deion Sanders, you know, the guys that were making millions of dollars. One makes 95. What was it? 95 million. Another makes 5.5 million. Well, thank God, there's no union to control how much these men ought to make. I mean, everything is done by merit. I mean, at least from the standpoint of, there's a little bit of capitalism and free marketing going on there with the sports,
Keith,
football.
you know about two
So
coaching
hold on
contracts,
before you
sir.
interrupt. Before you interrupt,
Sir, you know about two of them.
I know you don't agree, but let me just finish what
No,
I'm
it's
saying.
not a thing of
What I'm
agreement.
saying
It's a
is
thing of
I don't like this
you only know
collective
about two
bargaining.
of them.
I don't like collective bargaining for that reason. I mean, why should it's just like when Drew Barrymore said she's going to carry on with her show, everybody jumps down her throat, and Drew Barrymore was not a conservative, but anyway, all of a sudden she withdrew her request to have her show, just like Bill Maher did the same thing because of the pressure of the unions. And again, that's why I'm against unions. I'm just saying
Okay,
that's why I'm
okay.
against it. So
Okay,
you
thank you. You
can
gotta go to
disagree
the
with
next
me.
subject.
You can
Okay,
disagree
let's
with
go
me
to
all
the
you want.
next subject.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
Tuberville.
whoa, 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 whoa! Before we do that,
No, I'm trying.
yeah, but just let me just do this because we can't leave it there as far as
You
the
can't
discussion.
Sure.
leave it there.
So first of all, he tried to use two contracts. He knows nothing about college football coaches, the coaches associations, the affiliations they have, how they actually do collectively
No.
bargain and compete for a share of the TV money. So Keith doesn't know what he's talking about.
No.
Second point, when he said collective bargaining is bad, okay. Who would you like to represent you when you walk into an office and talk to your employer? Would
A
you
white
like it to
man.
be one person speaking on behalf of yourself or a collective of 1,000 workers speaking on behalf of that collective? Which means what? You have leverage and a little bit of room to negotiate for a fair deal. Here's the other part about unions. Unions raise the floor for all other industries because when a union goes in and fights and gets you 3.25 more than what you had, that means other industries, in order to compete for talent, have to raise the floor of the wages of the industry they work in. So why do we have a 40-hour work week? Why do we have things like minimum wage to protect workers? All of these things were done by real Americans, real patriotic Americans, fighting for other Americans to make sure a hard day's work got a hard day's pay. This goes back to Henry Ford making his cars affordable so his line workers could actually afford to buy a car. So not only thinking about profit, but also thinking about the citizens who lived in his area. So when you hear people like Keith, who, at a certain point, bootlicking becomes not only disgusting, but just beneath an average person's mind state. Like, you've got to understand, the corporations aren't your friend. As the great Thomas Jefferson said, they don't have bodies to be kicked or souls to be damned. And that's the hardest part about dealing with corporations. Me, people's champ type person, I'm going to root for the little guy, the average worker, the regular person, while Keith is looking at coaching salaries and comparing that to regular workers. Solidarity with the UAW, great tactics in pulling off this strike, and I definitely hope they win. And never forget, the big three car manufacturers were bailed out by the government, which means the money you paid in
Bush and
taxes,
Obama.
Keith,
Yeah.
to keep them alive.
Yeah.
And now the people who actually produce for them, the workers, want their fair share as they should. Out in there. Sorry, Stacey, but we can't leave it there with that nonsense.
Good for
Keith said.
you. No.
Okay, so let me read what this says really quick. The United Auto Workers strike against General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis has entered its third day. It's the first time that members have struck all three unionized U.S. automakers at the same time. That's pretty important. Nas, we need you to finish talking on your round. Oh, Keith, did you finish talking on your roundtable about Tuberville? And you did Bobart, you did the unions. What about Tuberville?
Well, there's nothing much to say about him. You know, it's just that
there's nothing much to say about him.
No,
what do you think about him holding up the military?
Well, that's holding it up for the reason he held it up. It was a good thing. That's all I can say.
It was a good thing for women's vaginas. He held it up.
Yes.
So this is how you see the mentality of a lost person. So he's against somebody using a political stunt to actually thwart the military. He's for that, but workers fighting for better wages, he's against that.
No.
So if we look at this, let me read this, please. Air Force General C.Q. Brown testifies during a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing to consider his nomination to be chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Tuesday, July 11th. That's when he testified. And now, as you can see, he has been or will be confirmed.
Oh, that's beautiful.
He testified in July and he will be confirmed.
And to bring this story and to bring this full circle, the story we started off with, Tommy Tuberville, former football coach, is not actually qualified to be in the position he's in. His popularity as a football coach is how he was able to win that election. And as we've seen him perform, he has no ability to govern.
Wow.
Okay, thank you. We are
out
out of time. We've gone out of time. Let's close this out. To our first responders in our communities, you make our lives livable. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To our women and men of the U.S. military for all that you do and sacrificing your lives so that we are free to say whatever we choose on this show, we are forever indebted. On behalf of Aguna, who couldn't be with us tonight, the Nigerian moderate Republican, Keith, the constitutional conservative, Stephen, the independent thinker who couldn't be with us tonight, Nas. Thank you, Nas.
Stacey, make sure you charge Keith for promoting a book that is not sponsoring this show.
Yeah, you got that right. And my cousin Todd. I'm Stacey Johnson. Let's keep this conversation going. Check us out. Like and subscribe on YouTube at SPORLITIKS. Check us out on Instagram at SPORLITIKS, TikTok at SPORLITIKS, Twitch at SPORLITIKS, X at SPORLITIKS, and Stephanie Stallworth, the Flow Television Network at SPORLITIKS. We will see you next week. Hopefully everybody will be back. Good night.
Okay. You know what I wanted to I didn't really compare what Boebert did to her rhetoric.
Yeah, that Boebert thing is so infuriating because, look, I grew up around different conservatives. The conservatives I grew up around, they had a standard is the standard mentality when it came to your demeanor, how you dressed, how you spoke to people, how you carried yourself. All of that stuff mattered. And now we're in the era where conservatism is just basically a free-for-all. So a woman like Boebert, who are we going to discuss qualifications there? Are we going to discuss demeanor? Like that was disgusting. That was a disgusting display by somebody who should be way above that type of behavior.
That's right.
Just consider her station. Like that is insane. And the fact that Keith wouldn't say anything about it, I mean,
yeah. And don't forget, she's the one that's always trying to protect the children because the children shouldn't see that. Shouldn't see what?
That was
Well,
a
I
good
did say
impression
she
of her.
was. I said that she was loose. I said that she at that time. So what else can I say?
That she
What
was
else do you want me to say?
nasty, and she's a double talking con artist.
Well, I don't know about all that because you don't even hear about her much except for that incident. How much is she in the news?
Oh, give me a break. She's in the news all the time. Her and her husband swap or cheat on each other and all that kind of stuff.
This has to be mental illness. There's no way you could just ignore that. The standard that you hold Dems to, I just want you to hold Republicans to. That's
No,
all.
he's not
That's all
going
I'm
to do
asking.
Well,
that.
do you hold the
Do
Democrats
you?
to the standard?
Yes.
Do you
Well, I
hold the
can tell
Democrats to
you.
that standard?
Yes.
I
No,
can
you don't.
tell you.
Why are you
Well,
putting that man's book up there? That's
right.
all I want to know.
I thought
Because
you were
it's
going
a
to
good
ask a
book and it's
question.
true.
I thought you were going to ask a question to prove some type
Well,
of
he can pay us to do that.
hypocrisy.
No, and the thing is here, he doesn't hold them to the same standards because he loves Donald Trump. That's
Right.
another one of his buddies.
And we've also never seen Larry Elder and Keith in the same place. So there's some questions out here nobody's ever answered. Where's Larry Elder right now?
I've talked to Larry
I don't
Elder.
think Keith doesn't look like Larry Elder.
That's right.
You think he looks like Larry Elder?
Oh, by the mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
I talked to Larry Elder. I've talked to him
And
before.
what did he? And what
Pillow
did he say?
talk.
Well, Larry Elder was he was in favor of gay marriage. He said he was okay with that. Not abortions, but gay marriage. So I disagree with him on that. But conservatives are there is a lot of hypocrisy of conservatives as well. And I'm going to admit that, and that is true.
Well, thank you, Keith, for at least giving that.
Well, just like, for example, and I know you guys you wouldn't agree with me on this, so I don't argue on it. I don't argue on things that I already know where you stand. That's why I'm not so animated. You wonder why I don't say anything or
it's because you're not good at making arguments. Larry Elder has accused the GOP of racism for not including him in the debate stage. So your answer to that.
But that's ridiculous. It's not racism. It's just that the ideas that he's expressing, many of the leadership of the GOP do not agree with in California. California GOP are sort of like moderate Kennedy type Democrats. Back in the day, these people in the GOP of California are not conservative. The elite ruling class of the GOP are not conservative in my view.
Wait a minute. So Larry Elder told us racism doesn't exist, and now all of a sudden he's saying racism is being directed at him because he's not included in the debates.
Well, that's what he's saying. So that's what.
Well, you were telling us to vote for him to get him to be governor of California. So
I think governor of California should have been. He would have been better than what we got now. That's for sure. But we don't have a pure breed of conservatives here in California. I'm telling you, the people are very compromising. I'll give you an example.
Because they're outnumbered 3-1, and in order to win an election, they would have to compromise a bit.
Well, there you go. All right, but I'm not willing to compromise, which is why I don't run.
So you just want them to lose? I got it.
Yeah, that's fine. Let them lose because I trust that God was able to compensate. And I know God will take care of his own.
Well, if God will take care of his own, why vote anyway? Just assume God will take care of it.
Well, I vote because it's my duty to vote, just as I do other things that are my duty. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be successful all the time. So there you go.
All right.
But I do understand.
Okay, we're getting ready to go.
I'm just trying to follow the logic here. Sorry, Stacey.
We're out of time. We're getting ready to go.
No, you don't follow my logic because
we gotta go.
you don't understand. You don't understand my view because you have
you're not hard to understand. You're not hard to understand.
you have a different worldview. That's okay.
No, you're easily
understood.
I don't hate you either. The problem is you're not able to construct the logical argument that makes sense outside of your bubble.
I'm not able to construct an argument that you would agree with.
Agreement doesn't matter.
That's what it is.
Clarity is what I'm looking for. Is that one of your favorites?
And I clearly am leaving. Good night.
Good night, Stacey.
And Stacey's not going to let us have that conversation.
Clearly am leaving. Good night.
Good night,
See,
Stacy.
and Stacy's not going to let us have that conversation anyway. So, hallelujah.
You
Good
always
night.
talking about
Gratitude.
what Stacy won't let you do. Maybe
Well,
it's
you hear
your
what she just
ability
said?
or non-ability, sir.
You
It's
hear what she just said?
Well, you
She'll
had
interrupt.
no,
You've been on
no.
the show
You
for an
had 5
hour.
minutes. Yeah,
No.
you had minutes to do that.
No.
He was asking that question before Todd came back.
No.
Okay.
It would
You
only
said no.
end up in interruption.
And no means
don't
no.
have time. No.
I'm sure he's been
Except
told that a
for
few times.
Stephen. Good
No.
night.